Hi everyone, welcome to 4.1 Intro to Polynomial Equations and Graphs. The first thing that I just want to state is that this is obviously our first video via our distance learning here. So if you see anything wrong, if you can't see problems or any issues that you may have coming across, feel free to let me know just so I can make each video better than the last. The other thing is that I will be available from 6 to 8 p.m. on Monday nights, like our regular class time. For any questions that you have, you can always do screen sharing, which would allow me to then see your problems, and I can always flip it back around and draw up a solution for you. So the first thing we'll talk about here is finding the zeros of a polynomial. Now, zeros of the polynomial, roots of a polynomial, solutions to the equation, those are all pretty much just asking you what are your x-intercepts. So in order to find your x-intercepts, we're going to start with factors, with polynomials that are already factored. So if we think back to solving quadratic equations, we remember we have something called the zero product property, where if you have a times b is equal to 0, that means that either a has to equal 0 or b has to equal 0. So we're going to use that same concept here when we already have factored polynomials. So we can take each one of our 4 factors and set them equal to 0. So we'll go through this really quickly. So we have x minus 4 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, 3 minus x equals 0, or x minus 5 is equal to 0. So from here, we'll just solve these. So at first, I will add my 4, and our first solution then would be x equals 4. Our next solution, if we subtract 2 on both of our sides, we would have x is equal to negative 2. For this third one, I would take the x and add it to both sides, so that way we are not worried about negative ones or anything like that, so we end up with x is equal to 3. And our fourth 0 that we're going to do here is we're going to add our 5 to both sides, and we'll be left with x is equal to 5. I'll leave the second problem for you. I'll go ahead and put up your answers to those, and I'll screenshot this whole thing and just throw this up on Blackboard as well. So if you have any questions about that, we can go over that during our Zoom. Now, the next part here is finding the roots using factoring. So in this case, right, we don't have factors already, so we're going to have to factor this quadratic first. The first thing that I would do here is our a term is 1 right now, because we have nothing in front there. So when we have our a term as 1, we can go ahead and just figure out what are our factors of c and see what's going to add up to b here. So if we take a look at our factors of c, we have 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. We're looking for that combination that gives us a negative 3. So to get the negative 3, we would have to do 2 and a negative 5. So my 2 factors are going to be x plus 2 and x minus 5. Now we can take both those factors and do the same thing as before. We'll set these both equal to 0. So x plus 2 equals 0 and x minus 5 equals 0. Once we solve this, we end up with our 2 factors, x is equal to negative 2 and x is equal to 5. Now, if we take a look at number 4, the first thing we'll have to do here is actually take out the x term. So if we take out this x term first as our greatest common factor, we're left with x squared plus 7x plus 12. And that will go ahead, and now we can factor what multiplies to 12 and adds up to the 7.